It almost feels as though, even though everybody is different and we're all individuals, in order to work in society, in order for anything to work, you have to be social and get on with people. And I'm not saying this is a bad thing, but just lately, and it's been drastic changes. Like, I've changed slightly on who I used to be, but there's still traits of who I still am. Like, I'm not saying that I'm a complete asshole, because I'm not. But I don't generally like being around just people. I don't really like being around the general public. Whenever I go out, I don't really like being around anyone. I feel as though, well, I have to be here, like, to get on with your day and just to do shit and go shopping and, getting all your groceries and whatnot. You have to go out. And I know there's always an option on, well, you get food delivered, but why do you want to fucking pay the delivery fee? And it's just lazy. But in order to work, you have to go out. It's like, to actually also, and when I say to work, I mean for yourself, just to get on in society, just to have a normal life. It's like, you have to put on an act. You have to put on a face, a mask. I really don't like being in close proximity around anybody. It's just who I am. And I'm not going to pretend that I'm okay with being around people, because I'm not okay being around people. I feel as though it's me against everybody else. For anything, for the job I want, just for anything that is good in life, it feels like you're competing against everybody else. Because one slip, it's like, well, you can just get replaced. Somebody's always waiting in the firing line. Somebody's always just waiting for your job, for your position, for whatever it is in life. Like, there's always somebody waiting. And I just generally like to keep myself to myself. I'm not a type of person you will find in the pub. I'll most likely be in a cafe or a bookshop somewhere. I mean, at the moment, I've been trying to get into work, and it's not easy, especially where I live. And I apply for jobs all the time, every day. I'm always like putting my name down, texting back. So it's not like I want to just be unemployed, because I don't. And I know that in order to get yourself back to normal, you have to you have to get yourself back out there and just work and be around people, even though you don't really like being around people. It's like, well, there's no other way. Society it's like it forces you to be around people you don't want to be around and you don't really like. I'm very, trying to think of a word now. I'm very persevacious. I'm very self-aware, and I'm very aware of what's going around me. I genuinely don't like being around most people. I don't like being involved in situations, conversations that I don't want to be part of. When people rope you into those conversations, like their little back and forth tennis match, and they just happen to fucking rope you into it. I like being separate, away from everybody, even though I might have to work in the same room as everyone. I don't want to be involved with any little fucking drama that's going on. I'm simply like, in a workplace, I'm simply there as an employee to get paid to do his job. I'm not there as myself, like my outside, outgoing self. Like, I feel as though when you go to a certain place, especially for me, I like to be different. I like to be different to when I'm in work compared to when I'm out of work. I don't bring my personal self into work. You get my work self. That's it. You don't get you don't get anything else from me, because you don't need to see anything else from me. You don't need to know my personal life. You don't need to know where I like to go. You don't need to know my quirks, my personality. You don't need to know the people I know. And there's people who like to do that, and they like to bring the personal self into work. I generally am against that. I'm as silent as they come when it comes to in a workplace. I just don't get involved in people's shit, really. I don't get involved in things I don't need to get involved in. And why should you? Like, when you sign that contract, you don't sign that contract to say that you will, you will be one of the lads, or you will, be the joker in the workplace. You'll make a fool of yourself. You will have to embarrass yourself once in a while just to fit in. Like, you don't sign any of that. You sign the contract on your job description and the hours and the holiday pay and whatever else is involved. That's it. You don't need to get involved in personal situations that are not, like, work is work, personal life is personal life. That's it. You work at your workplace, you do your personal shit in your personal life outside of work. You go to work to be able to afford the stuff you want to buy outside, and also you're earning a living. You need that bread on the table. Everybody does. And that's the way I see it. And I'm pretty sure there's a lot of people like me with the we're like-minded. You go to work to provide. You don't want to be involved in shit that does not fucking... It doesn't involve you. So why get involved in something external? Like, the more I think about just living in general, like how to go about your life, I feel as though you have to have high guards up. You have to be you just have to protect your inner peace, and channeling out the noise, because it feels like that's the only way you can be if you don't want to be involved in other people's shit, and you don't want to be this social butterfly. You don't want to be this extroverted person who is a character. I don't want to be a character. It's like, leave me out of this. I'm not here. I'm simply just here to do X, Y, and Z. And why is it so much of a problem if you don't want to be bothered? Like, there's also a stigma that, well, oh, he's just boring. Oh, well, this person's not playing ball, he's just bland and he's like a fucking bread sandwich and he's got no personality. Well, so, like, you don't know me. Like, the way I see it as, I'm not here to socialise. I'm here for business. And there's nothing wrong with these set in stone types of individuals that they do what they're supposed to do and then they leave, then they get on with their personal life. Typically, when you work in a factory or a warehouse or just any kind of industrial job, you will hear about so many fucking things that people have done during the weekend, and people like to discuss a lot what they've done. Well, how was your Saturday and Sunday been? What did you get up to? And also, you get the other side where, oh, did you hear about Martha? Did you hear about Kenny or whatever? Oh, how tragic. People love to gossip. You're around it all the time. Some people get the luxury of not being around it. Maybe some people have workshops and they're working strictly alone. And honestly, I'm so fucking envious of that. But for the most part, you are around drama, and people love to talk about themselves and other people. People love to get stirred up in drama, have these back and forth matches. It's like, once you become aware and you become self-aware, and you don't want to be in this anymore, you don't want to be in this shit, you don't want to be involved in this shit show, you just want to be all the way, down there, you just want to be alone in the corner, you want to just mind your own business, manage your tasks, do what you want to do. That's all you want to do, but it feels like you've signed this contract that you've got to get involved in more shit that you've put your name down for. And that simply just is not fair. I've matured over years, and I'm also more self-aware, and I look out for myself more. But if I go to a workplace now, I'm just doing my job. That's it, I'm just doing my job. I will learn, I'll do what I'm supposed to do. I will cooperate. But anything outside of the work, the work talk, the business relationship, the professional relationships, I'm not doing it. I don't want to know what you get up to outside of work. I don't want to talk about the Arsenal game. I don't want to talk about it. I want to just be there and do what I'm supposed to do. And there's nothing wrong with being that way. It's just what it is. And, society shouldn't just be about being extroverted. It shouldn't just work out for people who want to speak to everybody and anyone, because it just simply isn't that way. Some people love to socialise and just bounce off everyone and be this social butterfly. Some people don't, and why should it just work out for a certain demographic of people and not for the other? But yeah, that's just how I feel. Like, I don't go anywhere for other people. I go there strictly, I'm strictly just doing what I need to do. You get in, you do your job, and you get out. That's just, it's just how I've always felt. It's just how I've always been. I've tried being more social than I have been, but after so many times and experiences and shit just not going your way, you want to be more withdrawn, and that's the way it is. I'm not going to change how I am anytime soon. I'm going to stay true to myself, and I'm just going to keep doing what I need to do. I like being around my family. I like to do things, with the people I know and I love. But I don't generally like talking to people I don't know. I don't want to do anything with the people that I've got no relevance to me at all, to my life. And that's just how I am. I like, the people, the inside people, my family, close family friends I've known for years from school. They're okay. I just don't want to speak to external outside people, the NPCs, who have got no business whatsoever in my life or relevancy to me. And I don't see anything wrong with that, really. I really don't.